Just because we're going through struggles and just because the world itself is is a persecutor, and we just because there doesn't seem to be any hope, no matter where we look, whether it's the country we live in, the churches that we go to, the people in our lives. Just because it all looks bleak doesn't mean God's not working. And a clear story that demonstrates that is Job, right? He says in chapter 7, is not all human life a struggle? Our lives are like that of a hired hand. He goes on to say in 11, I cannot keep from speaking. I must express my anguish. My bitter soul must complain. I am a sea monster or am I a sea monster or a dragon that you must place me under guard? I think my bed will comfort me, and sleep will ease my misery, but then you shatter me with dreams and terrify me with visions. I would rather be strangled, rather die than suffer like this. He goes on to say, why won't you leave me alone, at least long enough for me to swallow? If I have sinned, what have I done to you, a watcher of all humanity? Why am I your target? Why am I a burden to you? Why not forgive my sin and take away my guilt? For soon I will lie down in the dust and die. When you when you look for me, I will be gone. So, a lot of people say this whenever times get dark and whenever everything seems bad, that there must be no God, or He's not working, He's not aware of my situation. But unfortunately, we have an entire book of the Bible dedicated to that, dedicated to showing, like Job, he had everything and it was taken away, and his life was kind of miserable, but he didn't curse God. That was the whole point, right? And then God gave it all back and multiplied it. So I'm thinking right now, as young guys, we're kind of in a Job situation across the board. Not all of us, right? But if you keep up with politics and the current state of things, you'll know that there are systematic problems going on that are, causing a lot of things, like the downfall of our family, the downfall of the nuclear family, the American spirit, the American dream. There's things that um, are affecting everyone, right? With the modern crisis, but specifically young men, the builders of society, the protectors of society, uh, you know, God's image bearers, right? And I would say even more specifically, young men, right? Definitely young men, the next generation of our leaders and everything. And it's unprecedented, right? If you look at all the statistics and stuff, and just the sheer lack of available partners and family life and kids, and we're not sustainable and all that stuff, right? I'm not going to get into it, but people are finally starting to talk about it, which is beautiful. On some of these um, mainstream content creators are finally starting to talk about it. So it's a real problem, and it's not just individuals like, oh, this one person, right, that's going through this. Oh, he's just, he's going through a rough chapter. It's like, well, no, this is nationwide. This is, I think they're even dealing with it in Europe and stuff, but I'm thinking of here in the United States. So it's like we're all going through a Job scenario. And just like the story of Job, it might get better. That's my hope. It'll get better. So while we're in it, we don't want to curse God, right? Whether this is a test from God, which I don't necessarily believe, though he can use things in life that others caused as tests, I could see that being true. But whatever it is, a systematic attack, a conspiring of, whoever above us, the elites, whatever, for their own self-interest. Whether or not we can tie this to times in the past and movements in the past, like the Bolshevik Revolution and things they did there to disrupt societies, right? Similar strategies and stuff. Whatever it is, it's a tough time, it's a bad time, it's a bleak time. But I think the most important thing is what we do with it, right? I think we need to fight it. I think that's pretty clear. I think we need to be outspoken and truthful about it, about how it's affecting us, right? Without this fear of feeling like we're complaining. I mean, if you even read in here, he even said, I cannot keep from speaking. I must express my anguish. My bitter soul must complain, right? Even Job felt it. He didn't curse God, but what he did is he says, I cannot help but speak my soul, complain, and share my anguish. He says, express my anguish. So that's something we can do right now. Express our anguish, speak our soul, share our complaints as young guys. And do it openly. Do it in a way that doesn't sound like you're a little child complaining that he didn't get the Happy Meal toy that he wanted, right? There's a way to do it. There's a way to do it that doesn't sound whiny or whatever. So just be careful of that, because that does more harm than good. But see, like, even right there, he's speaking his soul, and I think a lot of young guys, I don't think we do that. For some reason, we don't do that. We think, we got to keep our emotions bottled up. But when it's a systematic attack, when it is a planned attack, and I don't even want to get into it, but all the things that led us to here, it's been happening for a long time. I would say it's been going on for at least 60 years, probably a little bit longer. And I can tie it to certain things, and it's affecting everyone, all young guys, for the most part, in some degree. Some, their ability to find careers or be sustainable, or whether it's the ability to find a wife or a wife worth marrying, or the ability to have kids, or the ability to have any influence on, in the political world, and just go down the list. Standard of living, buy a house, all those things, right? People are dealing with different degrees. Guys are dealing with different degrees of that. They may be dealing with the whole kit and caboodle, or they might just be dealing with certain parts, and they have other areas of their life in order. But regardless, we're all dealing with it as young guys. So I think the key is to know when you speak your soul. One, Job did it, right? Job complained. Job talked about his anguish. He said he couldn't help, right? So even he did it. But in addition to that, know that it's not just you, it's other young men. And if you talk enough and you have enough friends, you'll find out that they're dealing with it too. So no, it kind of will give you this inner feeling. It'll give you this inner feeling of I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for others, which is a lot more altruistic. It's a lot, it just makes you feel better about doing it, because you are. I mean, you're speaking for other on their behalf, You're not just ranting and anything like that. So sharing your problems and sharing it in a way that shows, hey, it's not just me, but it's so-and-so, and we're a lot of us young guys are dealing with this. So being outspoken is really important right now, you know. So yeah, I think the biggest thing too is just like while we're in it, while we're here, not cursing God, knowing that God was working in the life of Job, even when he was going through all that stuff. He was still working through Job, and in the end, which you hope is our scenario, but in the end, um, he blessed him. He blessed him with everything he had lost. He blessed him with even more than what he lost, and all the while, Job didn't curse him. I think that's the important part. Now you can curse certain people, right? You can recognize the perpetrators in this and call them out. Call them out, you know? Do your research, call them out. But the perpetrator's not God in some sense. I mean, he does allow it to happen. He allowed it to happen to Job, which is something that you got to wrestle with, I suppose. It's, you know, it is true that in the story of Job, he let it happen to him. So, you know, I still don't fully understand the reason for that. Maybe it's so that Job would have a stronger relationship with him in the first place, you know? I suppose, like, if you asked Job, would you be willing to lose all of your kids and your servants and your life and go through all this and then in the end get it all back and get better stuff, you know, different kids and stuff? Do you think he would take it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think, I mean, his life seemed pretty good to begin with, so I don't think if I was in his shoes, I don't think I would agree. I'd be like, no, I'm fine with the kids I have, the life I have, the servants I have, the herds and the animals I have. I'm fine with it. I don't want to lose it, and I don't want to go through that. So, I don't think I would. I think I'd be fine just staying. So, even so, it's like it's kind of hard to find the reason why God did it. I mean, assumingly, he just did it for his own glory, you know. Job suffered almost pointlessly, right? Because he didn't need to. Now, in the end, God gave stuff back, but still, the hurt was still there. The lost lives were still there. So, yeah, I'm kind of going on a rabbit hole right now. But, yeah, that story's always made me wonder, you know. So, we don't know the motives behind what God is doing. Why does God allow? Because he does allow. Why does he allow this to happen? It's a good question. I don't know. But I also don't want to be the one to curse him while we're in it. I also don't understand much at all compared to God. You know, I really don't understand the world. And I have a very shallow understanding of the world. So because my understanding is shallow, it's not deep, then any reasoning I do, any reasoning or judgments I make on God and why he does things and if he should, they're not going to be fully informed, not even close at all. Even though it seems like it to me, with what little understanding I have, I can think, oh, this is why, you know, we shouldn't be going through this, or like what the heck's going on, but I just don't have everything. I don't have all the information, and even if I did, my mind, it's still a human mind. I can't conceive, you know. His thoughts are, you know, high above ours, higher than the heavens are from the earth, you know, than the east is from the west. The Bible talks about this. So, part of being a Christian, part of having faith is going through times like this, you know, and trusting in him, right? And like even here, Job's like, I don't understand what's going on here. Why can't you just leave me alone? I can't help but complain. I'm going through anguish. He says, why make me your target? He literally says in verse 19, chapter 7, why won't you leave me alone? So, you know, talk like that seems to be permitted. Doesn't mean God liked it, but Job talked like that. So there seems to be room for that. But don't curse God. Don't curse God. So yeah, it's kind of like a morbid form of encouragement, reading Job with us, like what we're going through as young guys, you know. You're what we're going through right now. We are living in a world where everything seems good, everything seems fine. That's how it snuck up on us. It's like the frog. If you put a frog in boiling water, it's going to hop out. But if you put it in water that's lukewarm and you boil it for 70 years, it's going to end up in a situation that says, oh yeah, like I'm dead, I'm screwed. But it didn't know. And that's what we're in. A situation where, hey, I've got a grocery store, I've got food, everything looks good. TV tells me everything's fine. I have entertainment at my fingertips and I can watch movies all day. Endless quality, high production entertainment for dirt cheap, right? With these streaming services. So they give you all these things to keep you content, to keep you happy. Because if you weren't entertained and you weren't happy, if you were actually discontent, if you saw everything that was going on for what it really is, as a young man, in the prime of your physical health, right? Full of vigor, arguably the most aggressive, the most dangerous person out there is a young man, right? If you saw all this stuff and you saw it for what it was, you wouldn't put up with it. You would revolt. That's what's happened in the past before, right? You would revolt. And there's not much they could do if it was all of us, let's be honest. If we did it in unity. And it would be behind a just cause, right? The future of not only our own lives, but the future of our families. The future of being able to have families, right? And against this debauchery going on in the culture, the sexual revolution, the feminist movement, the corruption we see in government that we're learning more and more about, all this stuff, we would have a righteous cause behind us. So, but just, realizing that the sports and the movies and the shows and the entertainment and the video games, right? It's, not only I could go on about how it's all full of propaganda, which it is. It's crazy once you see it. It's just full of it. But it's all aimed at making you realize, oh, I don't live in a society that respects me. I don't live in a society that allows me to be the man God created me to be. You can't. So I'm like a fish out of water. I'm in a country and a society that doesn't allow me to be who I'm supposed to be. I'm in a society that's hostile towards me, where the media and the social media and the movies create hostility between me and my wife, or me and my future wife, women, right? It creates this divide through propaganda, right? Demonizing you, empowering them, and saying anything other than that is not good for you as a woman. So look for a man that's going to bend the knee, that's going to be a cuck for you. Everything is aimed at tearing you down. Everything. That's why certain conversations we can't even have. We can't even talk in a certain way. We can't even share our mind, right? Because even the church is not a safe place to do that. It's not a safe place for you to have those conversations and to talk like that. And I know it's not, because I've had groups of guys over. We've got a very comfortable situation where we got all kinds of room and couches and sectionals and places to entertain, and we do quite often. And I know because I've had people express to me the freedom they feel, young guys, the freedom they feel when they're with us, with my crew, with us, and how they can just share their thoughts and be who they want to be. And specifically in contrast to being in church, I've heard one person in particular say, yeah, I've never felt like this in church. I feel like I can't even be who I want to be or talk about what I want to talk about. And I feel like I can finally express these things to you guys, without judgment, here, without fear of being called a bitter young guy, without being called a misogynist, without being called sexist, without being called evil, right? So it's like we see our culture in our church, in a lot of our churches. It's like no matter where you go, it's working. They're winning, and they're tearing you down. They're boiling you alive like the frog. But what they're going to do, right? And they've gotten smart about it, man. They've learned from history. Hopefully we learn from history. They have learned that if they want to be successful, if they want to win the long game, especially against you, young men. I want to say young white guys, but young men in general who are of a similar mind, right? I don't think the race necessarily matters a whole lot. Young men with traditional values that are in the Bible, that are in the Word, that are fed up with the way society is treating them these days. Fed up with the lies, fed up with the conspiring, against us. So, anyways, they particularly dangerous, men, right? In a good way. Dangerous in a good way. Protectors, defenders, everything, right? They know if they want to win that battle, if they want to win that long game, they've gotten smart about it. They have to do it in a way that you don't know you're being boiled alive. And the way they do that, they can slowly strip everything away from you. Strip your ability to procreate. Strip your ability to find quality wives. They can corrupt the women in your life. Corrupt the upcoming generation of women that are supposed to mother your children. They can create divides, and they can even in the movies, they can blatantly make fun of you and mock you in the commercials and the movies and everything. They can do all that, and they can get away with it if they just feed you enough to make you feel content, right? They can get your anger up to here, but they're not going to take it too far, right? They're going to make sure they keep, they keep following through on their plan, but they make sure that your discontent level, your, I've had it level, they just don't want you to reach that. They don't want you to reach that, man, I've had it, I'm done, right? And they keep playing with that. So, and they do that in different ways. I haven't even done a lot of thinking about it, but it's just providing you enough to keep you entertained. That's a big one. Entertained and fed and somewhat content and complacent, willing to just put up with stuff, And they do that through your phones, through your video games, through your movies. All the while, they're boiling us alive as young guys. And they're winning it. They're getting away with it, So anyways, I went on a bit of a rabbit hole, but I hope I shed some light on the situation for you guys.